What's up, everybody? It's Leo and Josh with another episode, our second live stream ever on 713 Football, man. First of all, thank y'all all for rocking with us. It's been like a rocky 2 months for me. My mom passed in June, like the middle of June, so I haven't really been able to really go live or haven't really had, the time to do much, outside of just, take care of my family and stuff, man. So yeah, man. I mean, that's what's kind of been going on. We do have a lot of good things going, brewing up. We're designing a logo, or having a logo designed, and we're kind of in the final stages of that. And that should be coming shortly. But yeah, man, let's just get right into this, Josh, man. Let everybody know how you're doing so far. It's been a long 2 months, right?
Yeah, man, I got all this Texan shit in my head, ready to explode, ready to talk about all this team. We haven't really gotten into, haven't talked since the beginning of training camp, so we're ready to just kind of uncork and really just get after it, and really just talk about this really interesting preseason game one and what it means moving forward.
Yeah, 100%, man. So let's just get right into it, man. Initial reactions to the game, Josh, man. I mean, I'll just kick it off, man. What do you think? I mean, what were some of the things that you saw and liked or didn't like?
Yeah, I mean, what it looked like to me is a team that was really, there was a pervasive identity throughout the entire team, right? For the first time in a while, it looked like the offensive line was matching, their ethos was matching the defense. We put out some videos, recently about the different offensive line. You guys can go and watch it and kind of how it all fits together and all that. But specifically with these guys we brought in, the physicality, the execution, the attention to detail, not trying to do a bunch of fancy shit out there, and really just being able and being strong within ourselves as a team to build and say, you know what, we're now on this next level as a playoff team. We're going to start expecting ourselves to kind of raise up to that level, and that's what you saw in this preseason game. I know that's a lot for one preseason game where a bunch of starters didn't, but you finally see a cultural shift and we'll see how it goes when the starters come in, because right, that, like, it's easy to tell a bunch of guys that are playing for their livelihood, right, that they have to play this way and they have to execute this way. But has that shifted to we've seen it in training camp and the practices, but has that shifted to kind of the guys that are really going to be the money makers in the playoffs, and they're going to get us past that second round bump?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to see, the offensive line, first of all. I thought they did a good job. I mean, particularly in the run blocking. We actually, I mean, Ursary did a really good job of really just the whole line in general, but the left side of the line did a really good job of resetting the line of scrimmage and, giving really nice cutback lanes for Dare, especially on the first drive. What else did I like? I mean, the offense had just a lot of quick passing stuff in there that I mean was something that we struggled with last year. And as the protection gets better, obviously, you don't want the quarterback to necessarily have to get the ball out in like 2 seconds. But sometimes when you play good defenses, that's just kind of what it is. So it's nice to see that we had that built into the offense. And I thought Mills did really, really well also. I know he won't really be playing. I guess hopefully, if never want your backup quarterback in the game. But yeah, I thought Mills did well. Jalen Noel had a couple really good plays, I thought, man. I thought overall the receivers played well. I guess that's kind of, that's not shocking at all. But yeah, the defense, played well. But yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is exactly like you said, man. I mean, they definitely matched the energy of the defense, and I mean, it looked like we were tone setters on both sides of the ball, even though, obviously this game, win or loss, doesn't matter, but you know what I'm saying? It felt, I didn't at not one time feel like we were necessarily like the weaker or softer team on the field, So that's what I thought about it, man.
Yeah, and I want to quickly jump back to the thing you talked about, the quick passing, right? And it kind of ties into what our next topic is with Nick Haley and the offense, because that's what everyone came for, right? We kind of know what the defense is going to be. We kind of know all that. We kind of know what's going to move forward with that and kind of how it's going to continue to develop under D'Amico, assuming guys are healthy. We know what that looks like, right? We're going to get excited when we get Chauncey back, assuming that, everything does well with his rehabbing and everything. but offensively there was a huge shift, right? Like it was like you talked about quick passing, and 52% of the throws were considered quick passing under 2.5 seconds. And that's a big shift, right? Now we see this with Mills. Like this is something Mills has shown he can do consistently, right? When he played, he was able to get the ball out of his hand, get it to his playmakers and everything. But we haven't really seen it yet with Stroud consistently, right? And because last year he had the 2.97 time to throw, which compared to the 52% of these throws that we just saw for 2.5 seconds, that's going to be kind of that shift. So can that be continued? But from what we saw, you saw that shift right away. Check it off. That's what you see McVay. That's what you see with the like his real baseline, which is New England stuff. And then you just saw a complete shift. And I'm sure you want to talk about it. Like there was 63%, 62% 11 personnel, 37% 12. We were getting big and nasty the way we did 2 years ago when Stroud had all that success. We're playing bigger front. Even though we have all this depth of receiver, we're not making it we're not letting that dictate how we want to come and be a physical team, right? We're able to kind of do both things and have that flexibility, just kind of take the fight to wherever they want to come to and kind of establish ourselves in a physical manner. So, I mean, there's just so much. We're going to get more and more into it as we go, as we talk today, tonight. But, man, I'm excited to see what that shift is and how that keeps building on it, because this is just literally the ground level. We saw the ground level of inside running, physical play, very minimal mistakes on offense, execution, people being where they were supposed to be, ball getting to where it needs to be, and pre-snap, it was a work of freaking art to me.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the offense is it's definitely different. You know what I mean? Like you said, the inside running from the beginning. I mean, maybe and I don't think that obviously I don't think that we're going to just 100% do that. I mean, obviously we didn't in this game either, but obviously there's going to be a little bit more variance as the year goes on. And then when we play better defenses, right, when we play different teams, I mean, shit, sometimes we're going to have to approach things differently if we want to have a run game at all. So, but it's nice to see that. It was nice to see, you know, the offense working, and it was nice to see screen passes actually work, yeah, which didn't seem to happen that much last year. Yeah, man. I mean, so that's kind of my thoughts on Kaylee. I mean, it's still such a small sample size. You did see a little bit of the McVay type stuff with obviously like the duo runs now that McVay has kind of like, you know, done, but particularly the compressed sets. I don't know if you have a stand on that, Josh, and we didn't talk about it at all, but there were elements of like McVay in that, like, there was a decent amount of compressed sets at least, right? So that is a similarity to last year. But yeah, you know, I think that it was a necessary change, you know what I mean? And I think at this point, we just got to see how the offense, you know, stacks days and, you know, I mean, weeks and, you know, months. And I mean, you know, we have very tough challenges throughout the year. It's not just like, okay, we play the Buffalo Bills in week 2 or whatever it was, how it was last year. And then we have like 10 weeks of kind of like, you know, there's one good game in between 10 weeks, and then we finish the year off with like a bang. I think that it's like every 4 weeks, it seems like there's a big matchup on this schedule. So I like that. And you know, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and saying that Kaylee is this or Kaylee is that. I don't really know what he actually is, but the offense is interesting. You know what I mean? The first preseason game was interesting. They laid the groundwork for like the kind of team that they want to be. You know they want to be a physical team. And I think that with the weapons we have, right, like you said, the weapons that we do have from the receivers, you're able to like go finesse and go 3 wide, you know, or 11 personnel, you know, whenever you want to. We can run a spread whenever we want to. We can also play 2 tight ends, 1 tight end, put in a fullback, and we have like 220-pound, well, really 3 if you want to count Pierce. You know, we got 3 backs that can really, you know, put their head down and go to work and be physical and just knock, you know, knock, you know, that's funny, Kush. Knock the, you know, just put people on their butts. So I like where we're going. I think that it was a successful first week, man. Man, now let's talk about the thing that everybody is talking about really since last year, right? Since before the draft even, the offensive line. So unfortunately, I don't know, Josh. Like I don't know if I, honestly with Cam Robinson, I am kind of approaching that like obviously he hasn't. We know that he will come back at some point in the season. I believe it wasn't a season-ending injury, but you know how these things are. I'm kind of prepared to, I mean, hopefully he's there week one, but if not, and we have to go into, I guess a game similarly to how we were yesterday, or where is Titus gonna play. But let's just talk about the offensive line configuration, man. Like, what do you think about it? Like, where, I mean, where do we begin, bro?
Yeah, it's really been kind of a work of art the way they've kind of tried all these different combination of guys throughout the training camp, and then you're coming out and it's been kind of a cute thing that people have reported on, and but the fact that they were to come out and take that right and then establish it in a game where they were bringing together guys that didn't have, I mean, they had reps together, but I mean, how often did we really have Fisher on one side, Ursery? How many snaps have they played together? How many snaps has Evan Ingram played next to Andrews and Scruggs at left guard, right? But the fact that there's a cohesion now, we talk about every time we talk about offensive line, it's about cohesion, about execution, about physicality. It's like the kind of the cornerstones of it, right? And you saw it right away with a guy, and it's kind of the microcosm I like to see from the whole shift was kind of what we did behind Ariante Ursery, right, in the run game. Like, I'll tell you right here, the stat that kind of slapped me in the face was we had 3 carries for 20 yards, 6.7 yards per attempt, and that's nice. But then you look at, we averaged 4 yards per carry before contact on those runs. And it wasn't like we had some, like, demon out there, right, running behind these dudes. We had freaking Dare, I want to be a kicker, Ogunbowale, right? And so, like, we got that guy out there, and we're still able to open up these lanes and attack without having our top 2, 3, I guess it's our top 3 running backs healthy, right? And we're able to kind of move in with a second string offensive line. So I think when you look at kind of what the configuration is moving forward, I think we're in a situation where it's an embarrassment of riches. And it's kind of why we were both really excited about the complete facelift and the commitment to completely shifting everything the way they did previously with the defensive line, Will Anderson. This time around, they came in, they said, you know what? There's really no one that we're holding as like a sacred player that we have to build around. We're just going to completely shift it and build a way and build a team that's going to support CJ in the playoffs when we're playing against those physical teams. And I think this was the really good first step from what we saw today. Yes, I guess it's yesterday now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. I think that, so many times you look at these offensive lines, and now it's, I mean, more so than ever, I feel like that, you have offensive linemen that are stars now. I mean, Penei Sewell is a star. I mean, like, people know who he is. I mean, I guess it's always been like that, but I feel like nowadays, like, they're like these. We see prima donna offensive linemen. I mean, unfortunately, I do like Laramie Tunsil. I think he's a cool person. You know what I mean? But, or at least from the outside, he dresses cool, right? All that shit. But I mean, is he someone that I just feel like we couldn't really take advantage of his skill set last year? And I mean, you could say, I mean, a lot of it probably wasn't even his fault, right? Because everybody else around him was kind of ass at some point, right? But at the same time, it's like, still, you're paying a guy like $25 million or whatever a year to not take advantage of them. And I think that the main thing about offensive line play in general is just willingness to hit and get hit and, play through injuries and get hurt, because it's a very physical game, right? That they have the hardest job physically of anyone on the field, and then so the willingness, and then just understanding what you're doing and giving the quarterback a little bit of time, like no free rush or as few free rushes as possible, really just getting in the way of the pass rusher. Because, like, let's just be real here, y'all. And I mean, I want to see the comments, because me and Josh talk a lot about this. I mean, if you look at the stats, man, Jalen Hurts basically played in as many money pockets per percentage-wise as C.J. Stroud did. There's no way that you can really block these defensive linemen in the league for, like, I mean, I'd even say like 2 seconds. 2 seconds is a lot to, like, ask someone to block Jalen Carter for like 2.5 seconds. You know what I mean? And give the quarterback time to step up and throw the ball and all that. To me, like quarterbacks have to be able to work in these type of tight constricted pockets if you want to be a great quarterback in the league. But the stuff that Stroud was dealing with, I do think that Stroud could get better in a lot of ways. But the stuff that he was dealing with, I mean, all the free runners coming at him, the lack of the run game, there was a lot on his plate. As hard as I can be on CJ, it wasn't an ideal or great situation for a quarterback that's in his second year. Most quarterbacks would have definitely, had rough years, in that with the how inefficient we are running the ball. And a lot of that was due to the offensive line. Now, going back to what we were talking about, this configuration, why the Tunsil trade had to happen, why, we drafted Ursery, a big tackle, why we went and got Cam Robinson, why we went and got Laken Tomlinson, right? To support CJ, man, you have to give, like, the best thing you could give a quarterback is a run game. You look at C.J. Stroud being so, like, what was the thing that made him so great his rookie year? Ability to push the ball down the field. He was like number one in the NFL in average depth of target, per throwing attempt, right? It was like 9 yards, as a rookie, So he's good at pushing the ball downfield. So how do we get to the point where we can do that consistently? You run the football. So I think that the way that the way that everything is going to marry together is going to be perfect, because you run the football. It gives CJ Stroud, more opportunities to push the ball and play action. That, coupled with him getting the ball out faster and less free runners, he can have an MVP this year. He definitely can have an MVP type season this year, right? And then how does that pair to the defense, right? I mean, shit, you run the ball, our defense is off the field. You run, you get explosive plays and play action, you score points. And then that just gives our defense more of an opportunity to just do what they're best at, which is rushing the passer, and create shitty situations for other quarterbacks. So I know I kind of went off the rails, but that's how I feel about the whole offensive line configuration and how it fits with the team. Hopefully Cam Robinson is back. It seems like hopefully Cam Robinson is back. Hopefully, I don't know how do you feel about Titus back at right tackle, Josh? Like, is that something that you want, or would you rather see him at guard?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've kind of bounced around back and forth, right? Because there's two ways I kind of see it, right? If you have Cam Robinson at left tackle, it gives you that flexibility. You got that big dude from West Monroe over there, just gooning people, like just knocking people on their ass. You got Laken Tomlinson, who knows how to go out there and just knock people on their ass. You have someone at center. You can figure it out between Andrews, whether it's Patterson, maybe if it's Scruggs. Maybe they start mixing that up. Whatever that happens. But I think the key thing that's going to decide whether you can play Titus at right tackle, I think, is whether Evan Ingram becomes the right guard, right? If they're at a point where they come into the year and we really love Ursery, but we think that he could use, maybe a few weeks to really still work on polish some things, they're in a situation where they can do that, right? I know he's looked really great out there and he's been incredible, but there might be a situation where you want to ease him in. And guess what? You have that opportunity. And guess what? The most injured position in football is offensive line. He will get an opportunity to play. Blake Fisher will get an opportunity to play, most likely at some point this year. All these different guys are going to get an opportunity to play. Now, I can see if they move and say, you know what, Evan Ingram keeps playing like he did this week, right? The physicality, the consistency, not having the big gaffes in the past pro game that he's had, right? Really just kind of working together as a unit, and that's the best five, where you have Titus over there, where he's super solid, he can execute, he's not going to knock people on their ass, but then across the board, everyone else, Laken's going to chew on some glass, kneecap biter and Ingram, across the board, you got those guys set, you can have him over there. The problem for me is when you move him inside, you almost have to have a guy like Ursery at right tackle, right? Like, I don't know if Blake Fisher is there with the physicality yet where you can play him next to Howard and have that physical nature that you want in that duo scheme. Because the biggest number for me that jumped out, I'll tie it all together with this in the run game, is we ran almost 65% of our runs were from inside the tackle. And that's a massive shift because last year we were only at 41% all throughout the year. And I know it was only one game, but the fact that we've kind of completely inverted our run game where we're going inside out now, it's trying to limit those negative plays. It's trying to limit and try to establish that area in front of the quarterback that's going to allow CJ to do the thing that he does best, which is play action passing, and not just play action passing, but when you attack in between the tackles, it sucks the linebacker. It really affects the hook defender, sucks those guys in, sucks the safety in, makes teams play more single high. And that's what CJ does best, attacking between the numbers. That's where he's killed people on big plays over and over again. He's not, at this point, he's not great on the outside, right? He's not there right now, and that's fine. But if they want to go there, is it feasible to have a Howard at a guard in that situation when your center isn't a guy that's going to really physically dominate? They're all solid and they're not going to make mistakes, whoever's playing out there, unless maybe Scruggs comes around and he can be a physical player at center. So that's kind of the conundrum for me. For me, I would like to see, like, best case scenario, you got Cam on the left. You probably go with Ursary, shows that he's able to be at his best and he's able to be consistent enough in pass pro that you can play him at the right. You're probably having Howard at right guard, and then you have it kind of stacked across. Like Lakin, I think, is pretty much locked in, and center is one of those guys. I think Andrews might end up being it just because he's more of a neutral to positive player in the run game than Patterson is, and maybe Scruggs, they give him more run there, but it seems like they've shifted the guard. So that's kind of how I kind of see it. But the exciting part is, and it's the first time, this is hard because Texans fans haven't seen this in really, I can't remember the last time they had so many options at offensive line. But the masterful nature that Nick did of building up so many options is exciting to me and really cool because it's going to give you constant answers to the questions that are going to come up inevitably throughout the year.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, with that, there's a lot of options, and I mean, it's hard. I know Titus. I mean, he's just an offensive lineman at this point. Tackle, guard. Like, I was listening to someone talk about offense. Actually, it was Gerald McCoy. He was talking about offensive lineman, and he was basically talking about how Trent Williams, his last year at Oklahoma, ended up having to play center at some point. So I think that with Titus, obviously we have two guys that they view as tackles, right, between Blake Fisher and that we drafted, Blake Fisher and Ursary, right? Everybody else has to have a lot of versatility, right? And so I think that the best line probably ends up, well, I mean, it's hard to say. It's like, would you rather have Ursary at tackle or would you rather have Scruggs at guard, right guard? Or Andrews, like, it's a tough situation, a tough, how do you say it? I guess that's why these guys get paid millions of dollars to make the decisions, right? That's also why they get fired all the time. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I like what Ursary brings. I think that he gives us something that we haven't had in a long time, probably since Dwayne Brown, I'd say, even like as a tackle that is a force in the run game, So I would like to see him play. I would like to see him start, and then Titus. And then, like, I know Titus isn't really thought of as a physical player, he's not like this dominating physical, like, guy that just finishes people in the run game. But he is 330 pounds. And I think that, he can lean on people in a duo scheme, you running power and stuff. I think that he, can probably work good in double teams, you know what I mean? And then so Andrews, Scruggs, whatever. I mean, it seems like they're going with Andrews, whatever, right? Like in Thomason, you just hope that I mean, he's old, man, hopefully he can last the whole year, but that's where I'm comfortable with Scruggs as a backup for sure. And then obviously you would like to see Cam Robinson play, so that's kind of my my starting lineup. There's been a lot of talk about Blake Fisher I've seen on Twitter and just in general. I think that there's a lot of overreaction to like everything having to do with Blake Fisher. And shouldn't really go into this, but I'll just be honest. I think from the moment that we drafted him, because there wasn't necessarily a clear need at tackle, I feel like people have been hard on him since then. And then we drafted another tackle when people think we need a guard more, which I understand. When you look at how our interior played last year and you look at the long-term pieces at guard, it's tough to look at for us, but I think that we have to remember that team building isn't always a linear thing. It's not like you go to the store and I need some toothpaste, so I have to get toothpaste or this, that, or, you can only make options. You can only pick from the players that are available. And I think tackle is an infinitely more valuable position than the guard, than the center, right? Unless those guys are just like Hall of Fame type guys, I guess. So it's like you kind of end up building similar to how we built our defense. We built the line from the outside in. The more valuable positions are on the outside: cornerback on offense, edge rusher, And so I think I like it. I think but yeah, going back to what I was saying, Blake Fisher, man. I think people are being a little bit too hard on him, man. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, and I think it's a great time to mention that we got our first super chat. And Murray, that's our guy, man. He said, "I don't want to see Blake Fisher at all." I mean, I get it. I get it. I get it.
Jesus Christ!
It was. That's as clear as you can get, right? I feel it. And we have a situation where we don't have to see him. We got other options.
Yeah.
But my fever dream offensive line, this is taking away the money. Everyone's making the same amount of money, and there's not influence to play this guy. And Leo told me I was batshit crazy because it's never gonna happen because Titus is gonna play, but Titus doesn't always stay healthy, so we'll see how that goes. But I think there's a situation where Titus does play, and man, if we can get a Ursary right tackle, Ingram right guard, Andrews, and then you got Titus next to Cam, I think that may end up being our best group in the long term. In terms of having the one guy who's a more of a finesse player in Titus that's not a real people mover, and having two dudes having a true strong side. When was the last time we really had a true strong side? But man, I get it about Blake Fisher. The thing to remember, and it's the thing that I haven't heard repeated or mentioned, the dude he's still a year behind Ursary. He's a year younger than Ursary. His body's Ursary's a grown ass man. His body's kind of filled in, right? He's not gonna get he's about as big as it comes. He's that dude, right? Blake Fisher's still kind of developing, and I think the long term plan is still obviously Fisher and Ursary, and they kind of complement each other really, really well because Fisher's a really good athlete as well, in movement, and you saw it in that playoff game where they were just running down through the face of who was it, with the Chargers and the Chiefs. But for Blake Fisher, no, I don't want to see him right away. But man, just before we're sending him on sending him off to Dameon Pierce Island where everyone was ready to get rid of him, the same way that happened, and John Mechie Island, and even Nico Collins Island before 2 years ago, right? People were ready to move off of him because of his injuries. Just realize that they don't make him like that, right? And he's got to work on some stuff. There's been some rumors that maybe he came off injuries that we don't know about, little things. So I'll give that kind of, just have that in the back of your mind. I agree. Don't want to see him right now, but man, he can be a piece later on.
Yeah.
And then when you're building up the culture in the future.
Yeah. It's about the long run with him, man. And I think that's why we went out, we drafted another tackle, and we signed 2 or 3 tackles too. We signed Brown, who I know is hurt. But we signed a starting left tackle for this reason so that we don't have to count on Fisher. So 100%, I think I'm more so talking about the long run. I'm not saying I want to see him start week 1 because that would be crazy as hell. But anyway, yeah, thank you, Murray, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. What's up, fellas? Shout out to Texan for the $20, man. What's up, fellas? It's about that time of the year. Let's fucking go. Yeah, man, let's fucking go. I mean, thank you for the super chat, man. We really appreciate it, man. Like I said, it's not that we wanted to take this break. I mean, I needed to take a break, you know. Like I said, man, you know, it's been my mom passed, and I think I've dealt with it pretty good, but it's, you know, with that comes a lot of business you have to take care of, man, you know, so it's been a lot to deal with, bro. So, but yeah, man, you know.
I think this is a good thing to, before we move off of offensive line, because there was a lot of like pre-camp hype around Ladarius Henderson.
Right.
And he's another guy where we're talking about like long-term pieces and development guys and taking swings at the end of the draft. That's the example right there, right? Like, they brought in if they really had feelings on like Ladarius Henderson being like a dude for them, they wouldn't have brought in like 4 or 5 different guard options or 3 or 4 different guard options. They wouldn't have drafted so many. They wouldn't have bring in Jake Andrews. Like, they wouldn't have brought all these different pieces in. I think he's a good potential bottom of the roster kind of guy, similar to like Austin Deculus, where he can come in and maybe. I mean, I think Deculus is far along because he's actually won games for you at tackle, right? I know it's crazy to say because it's kind of. And maybe my LSU bias, you know, but I think he's kind of in that thing where last year or the year before we would be talking about, can Ladarius Henderson give us something? And thank God, with what Nick Casero's done, we're not worried about Ladarius Henderson giving us something this year, right? Now, if he ends up like just leveling up and throughout the year and eventually has to come and play because we have, God forbid, we have all these injuries, that's cool. But he's just on that long list of guys, you know. Like, and I'm excited to you know, kind of see what this constant, you know, manifestation of this offensive line looks like. Because guys, it's only week 1. Like, we got 2 more games where they're gonna try all these different things. They're gonna take all the information they got here. They're gonna do some joint practices with grown ass men across from them, get information there. And guess what, guys? I hate to tell you, teams take more out of those joint practices than they do a lot of these preseason games, especially for those guys that are actually going to start. That's where they get their information, especially in the trenches. Because for the most part, you're not getting the looks that you want. You're not getting all the red zone looks. You're not getting all the goal line looks, all the things that you want to really figure out when you're figuring like actual finishing pieces of a Super Bowl contending offensive line. So I think that's all something to kind of keep your eyes out and really keep your ears to the ground and kind of see what the reporting is when we get to those joint practices for the offensive line.
Yeah. Ladarius Henderson, man. I mean, we'll see. You know, we'll see what happens with him. That's all we can really say now. I mean, he did look good though. The last, you know, like you said, the second half when he got in the game, 100%, man. I kind of wanted to talk about. Well, first of all, thank you guys for the kind words. I don't hate the Ursery Ingram right side. Let's talk about this a little bit. I don't like, in theory, right? It just kind of like, listen, I mean, if we run the ball well, then I think everything else will just make sense. I mean, you know, if they come in and if that right side ended up starting and we ran the ball well, I hope that we run the ball as close to 50%, you know, as possible, right? I think that if that happens and we are efficient, I think that, you know, as long as they just aren't getting murdered in pass pro, you know, that's, you know, I think that's all that the quarterback and the offensive coordinator needs to be able to call successful plays and get the ball out. I mean, it just is what it is. You can't expect to have great protection in this league, like I said before. So to me, if it gives you a clear advantage in the run game, to me, I'm cool with it. And you just can't be just unplayable in passing situations, right? And I think that's the thing about Ursery and Ingram at this point is like, we don't really know. I mean, Ursery probably will have his lumps. You know, there's no way around it this year, right? Like, you know, I mean, you playing some of these edge rushers, man, that we talk. I mean, we got one of them in practice, you know. It seems like every week there's like, you know, before he was named a starter or it looked like he's going to start, they were talking about how bad Will Anderson's making Ursery look. And I mean, the thing is that, you know, you play some of these teams, I mean, shit, you know, Jaguars have a good edge duo. I mean, who else do we play? Shit. I mean, all the top edge rushers. These guys wreck games,
dude.
man.
I mean, week 1. Do you want to
yeah,
put
oh,
Nursery
yeah, I
out
forgot
there
Verse.
against
Yeah,
against Verse and that?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, listen. It takes a whole game plan to let guys like that not wreck the game. It takes a quarterback really, really, being on his stuff. Making sure his reads are right from the, making sure he's getting through stuff as fast as possible. Because, listen, I mean, Jared Verse is, I mean, honestly, at this point, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that his speed to power is probably the best in the NFL right now from edge rushing spot, right? So, to me, it's like you can't really expect, if you calling, if we running like some 5-step drops, 3-step drops, man, when you hit the back foot, bro, at the drop, man, I mean, that ball has to be coming out very shortly because it's just how the game is, man. Listen, these edge rushers are the best athletes in the world. Jared Verse is one of the best athletes in the world from a speed, weight, power generation standpoint. It's just too hard to block them. I mean, unless you're like guys like Laramie Tunsil, unless you got like goddamn Jonathan Ogden and shit like Orlando Pace. I mean, how many guys like that are? And then you would really need like 3 or 4 of them on your offensive line at one time, right? So to me, man, it takes a whole effort to not let guys like that ruin games. So I think that, man, we can't really. I'm kind of curving how I grade offensive linemen now because it's like, damn, it's such a hard position, man. So yeah, man. I mean, moving forward.
Yeah. One last thing that just kind of popped in my head is, and it ties in with what you said. Like, we've got to move on now, and this is something we've done previously as Texans fans, like way back with the Schaub years with Kubiak. We got to start grading as units and say, okay, this is how this unit performs. We kind of grade that. That's a snapshot. We got to stop looking at it as individually as much. Like, the coaches are going to look at that, but we don't know the context of their assignments. We don't necessarily know like when the ball's supposed to come out here or there, and you can see when guys really just get screwed over, like just tossed around. But I think we're past that. We're like, we saw it. We only gave up two run stuffs out of our run, like yesterday or whatever. So I think that's kind of where we're at moving forward with that. But I think I wouldn't be surprised when you're facing teams like Tampa and the Rams, with the first 2 teams that cause so much chaos. It wouldn't be crazy to me if they come out with like an all veteran lineup of Titus at tackle and Cam Robinson at tackle and Laken Tomlinson and Ed Ingram and I guess Andrews is probably your most veteran center, or not, I mean, he hasn't really played a bunch either. So whoever the center is, they figure that out. But the guys that are the best communicators, and then it's like you've seen with rookie quarterbacks over the years, you can kind of treat the same with this offensive line depth. You start folding guys in. You get maybe a guy, eventually you see in practice, he's ready to kind of take over Ursery. And we just need that bump on the run game. And so then we slide, someone else gets hurt or Ingram's not doing it. I think it's going to be one of those things where we have an idea of a unit we want to use, but I think it could be more pliable to kind of as we develop and as we get better. And it's the way we've seen it with the Patriots over and over and over again. Our first unit is very unlikely to be our playoff unit, right? So that's kind of how we have to look at it, and we're gonna find that best thing all the way at the end, and that's what Kaylee's bringing. People get excited about the game plan offense, but the beauty of a game plan offense is that you're learning all the strengths and weaknesses of your players in a wide range of different things, so that when you get to the playoffs and you have to play a bunch of different ways within one game to beat a team, and you have to go in with 3 or 4 different game plans to handle Steve Spagnuolo's defense, you can now do that, and you can pull in those guys that can do it the best, So that's just something that kind of popped in my head when we were talking about like who the first opponents are and kind of how the season is going to develop.
Yeah. I always say this, man. Like, obviously, like we say, bro, sacks are a quarterback stat, man. That's what Troy Aikman said, and obviously that's not 100% true, But what he's saying is that it's the quarterback's responsibility to get rid of the ball a lot of the times, most of the time, right? So obviously offensive coordinators matter and all that stuff, but it's a lot. The quarterbacks have to do. It's the reason they get paid so much, man. So I think help the offensive line up as much as you can. I think, and I obviously, I think Texans said it. Davis did a great job of getting the ball off fast. I think that's going to help the offensive line a lot. Like, I think if CJ makes, like I said again, I'll say it again, if CJ makes a really positive step in that regard, bro, and we run the ball better and we could get more favorable play action looks anyway, he's going to throw 30 touchdowns probably. You know what I mean? He's going to, like I say, he's going to have an MVP type season, man. So let's move on, man, to the next thing. And who won the day, man? Josh, bro, who do you think, who are some players you think had great days that upped their stock, to the coaching staff?
If you're a fan of good linebacker play, you probably needed to take like multiple walks during this game and kind of had some cold beverages to kind of keep you from just like losing your mind a little bit, right? Because, I mean, this was kind of textbook. I think from watching this game I know everyone's probably going to kind of figure out what I'm leaning to, but I'll just say it right. EJ Speed needs to be, right now, he needs to be the other starter at linebacker, right? Until we know that Christian Harris is healthy and everything. I think what he went out and played and the way he would complement and his size he gives you and the length he gives you when you have a smaller backer like Aziz, right? Obviously, when Christian Harris is healthy and he can play like he's your guy, right? But as that third linebacker, I think he's passed up Henry Toa because you just have such a higher upside. And the stuff you saw with him and the stuff you saw with Hill, the way his development that he had. I mean, Jake Hansen is always doing the right thing, and he's just a high-level executor. He's not the flashiest athlete in all this. Like, Woodard played his ass off. Like, there's a bunch of different guys that just flashed like crazy. And I think you look on this defense and you see just the incredible level of depth and interchangeability outside of those top-tier guys that we have that didn't really play in this game. But everywhere else, you see that fluidity on this roster, and I think that's who really stood out is kind of the defense and the way everything can kind of move and shake, and there's different opportunities where we can kind of match up with this team better or match up with this team better, and it's going to allow us to keep our really high-level players from getting overworked and allowing them to kind of cycle through, and assuming Darrell Taylor's going to be healthy because I think he had a hell of a game too when he was out there, and Solomon Byrd had some moments. There's endless guys. We could just name guys for over and over, but like I think that's where kind of my focus was. There was scuff on offense too. I'm sure you'll touch on and stuff, but that's kind of where the first thing that got me really excited because now you have a strength there on defense. Now you got to build a freaking nightmare. It's time to build a nightmare rather than just having a really strong defense that swarms. We need to make teams to go in and say, you know what? This is like playing those old Tampa teams with Derrick Brooks and Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp and just the way that they used to just Rondé Barber where you were just terrified to even check the ball down, right? So I think that's where we can be. And I think now we have that depth to kind of support it and to keep those guys fresh and really execute at a high level.
Yeah, yeah. EJ Speed had really good moments for sure. Jamal Hill, I think, probably had the play of the day with that TFL for me, man. Like a 5-yard loss, and he knifed in the backfield. Looked a lot like what you see like from Christian Harris, which I think, when we drafted him, obviously I knew that was a project, but man, if he's able to hone that and like really use his athleticism and develop as a player, more polished, man. I think the sky's the limit for him now. I don't know what else he did, but it's pretty quiet other than that, I believe. But I thought he had a big play there. I thought all the receivers won. I think everybody had, good plays. Jalen Noel, man, with that screen on, I think it was like 3rd and long, I believe. He caught a screen, made a couple guys miss, and got a first down. I think Higgins, man, they were trying to find ways to get on the ball. He got hit on a drag route. It wasn't anything crazy, but like he definitely had a few plays, and Barrios obviously as well. So I think, man, I think the receivers won. I think Jamal Hill with that TFL, like, because that was the first play I feel like I've ever really seen him make as a linebacker. You know what I mean? Like, literally on defense, So, not special teams and anything. Like, he made a play on the field, during the game, 100%. So he played well, I thought. I'm trying to think anyone else, man. Davis Mills. Davis Mills had a great first drive, I thought. One of the better drives I've seen him. He got the ball out quick and on time. Unfortunately, man, I'll say this, like, unfortunately, and, I guess right now we all knock on wood. We could talk about this a little bit too, Josh, as far as, like, why don't we trade Mills and, all this shit. I think Mills is too important for us to trade right now. We're a Super Bowl caliber team. Oh, shoot. We're a Super Bowl caliber team. And my bad, my PlayStation just turned off. My light is hooked up to my PlayStation. Now, 1 second, I'm sorry. All right.
But yeah, while he's getting that together, he's back.
I got it.
He's back.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah. Davis Mills. We're a Super Bowl caliber team. The having a good backup quarterback, man, is like, I forget which coach said it, but he said you're only as good as your backup quarterback, right? I think Mills is too important for us to trade. I think that for us to trade him, it would have to take like something it has to be a day 2 pick. And if it's not a second round pick, it probably takes like 2/3 right now, because if at any point if CJ goes down, you know what I'm saying, I don't feel comfortable with anybody else that we saw. I mean, Slovis looked terrible. Graham Mertz, did he even play? Can't even remember.
No,
him.
Graham Mertz was the one that looked terrible. Slovis was the one
he looked
that,
okay.
Yeah, he was just like,
it was. I definitely don't trust either one of them in real games.
Yeah, no doubt.
Davis, I do trust. I trust him. To give you a fighting chance. Honestly. So yeah, man. I know we didn't really plan on saying this, but yeah, I thought Davis, man, that was a drive. That first drive, he looked like a starting quarterback. He looked like a legitimate starting quarterback. So I think. Yeah. Overall, I say that he probably had the best day out of anyone,
Yeah, I mean, what he reminded me of is it flashed me back to like Kirk Cousins coming in and playing, and way he executed behind RG3. It flashed me back to Matt Schaub, right, when he was playing behind Vic, and just that value you have, and especially with CJ coming out and saying he wants to run more, and we'll see what happens with that, right. The value of that backup quarterback is you really have to get the Matt Schaub package to really move off him damn near, like for me personally. If you're truly serious about winning the Super Bowl and then this year or the next couple of years, like if it takes overpaying or really like paying a backup like legit money and cutting other places and saying, you know what, we just have to get that because unless they really see some big steps in the future with Mertz, because obviously they drafted him to be a backup developmental guy. I just think you get too much of the things that you need in the interim, right? He's kind of that Teddy Bridgewater type as a backup. He's kind of like all these different pieces where you can cycle him in for 4 games if CJ like twists his ankle or something minor, right? That's only a few games out or some, right? And you can bring him in and you're fine, and you can then CJ will come back in and it'll, and the other thing is he's also he's pushing CJ at the things that CJ needs to elevate at, right? The execution, the pre-snap stuff, all those things that we saw him come in yesterday and really execute at a high level are the things that I think now CJ turns around and says, you know what, all right, this is what's pushing me. He has all this experience in pro style coming from Stanford, and he's played in so many different offenses coming up to this year with all the playing with Pep stuff and Culley stuff. I think he was. I can't remember if he was with Culley or not. It was okay. Yeah, it's just the kind of blind. But yeah, I think you don't really move off him, and I think it's exciting to see kind of where it keeps going, and maybe in the future you get a place where you can kind of move off him. But I don't think it's this year, this offseason.
Yeah, it can't be. It can't be. I just think he's too valuable for us, man. Yeah, so Davis, to me, he was the guy that won. He's gonna, like, I think we have him for one more year, I think, or something like that. He's gonna get signed again by somebody. It's not gonna be us, but probably most likely won't be us. But you know, I just think he's gonna end up being a backup quarterback for someone else. But yeah, man. I mean, shout out to him, man. He definitely put a lot of work in, and dealt with a lot of stuff while he did start. Really for us to be where we are now, right? But yeah, all right. So finishing off, man. What to looking ahead to week 2, Josh, man? Is there anything specific that you want to see next week?
Yeah, I I want to see kind of what I want to see some snaps from CJ. Right, it's probably only a series or two, but is there the continuity that we saw where the execution of pre-snap, all those little things? Like, I know CJ can throw the ball and he can attack off play action. He can do those things, like a lot of stuff post snap, but well, but I think the most important stuff is, can he execute consistently in the quick game? Can he show that in this new offense? Does he feel comfortable with that? And pre-snap, how does he do that? That's the one thing. The second thing, obviously, is the offensive line. What is the next thing that they're going to run with when they have more starters? I assume more starters are going to play next week in week 2, but who knows? Maybe there's a new way that they're approaching. But assuming that more starters play, what does that look like? What does that adjustment look like, right? And what does it look like on the defensive line? What does the pecking order look like there? What happens at that third linebacker spot? Who steps up in that third cornerback spot? That's going to be super important. I think D'Angelo Ross tackled his ass off in that game, right? Yesterday, and I think he's got some moments where he looks good. The nickels positions, there's just so much talent, and I think the other position that we have to kind of see, and how these guys, whether it's Russ Yeast, whether it's MJ Stewart, what happens at that third safety spot, where if Chauncey misses time, what is the plan for that, and how is that kind of moving forward, and what the vision is for how they're moving guys around, and how we're kind of working with that.
Yeah, 100%, man. Also, Rooney, man, thank you, man. We'll be making more stuff, like we'll be making more stuff really soon and going live. For sure, at least one time a week, man. And we'll keep y'all updated. First of all, make sure y'all like, share, and sub, man. Make sure y'all are subbed and have the notifications on. We do post. I do post. When we go out, when we're about to go live, and when we have new things, and then just little polls on YouTube and stuff to create a space, a conversation space for not only just Texan fans but just football fans in general, man. So make sure y'all sub. 100% and had the notifications on for that. But yeah, we do got more stuff coming for y'all, and we appreciate all the support, man.
But also, real quick before we move off that, make sure you guys, if you guys want to support us and you don't want to necessarily do a one-time payment, you're cool with like doing a smaller amount for like a subscription. We got subscription where you can become a member, right? Texan is a long time supporter of us, and he's been great. And I think we were up to like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe even more. I can't remember last. I haven't looked in it for a minute, but if you guys want to come and really support us and help us put out more and more content and really help us pay the bills so that we can be a bigger community and kind of add and keep growing, feel free to jump into there. Reach out to us if you have ideas on stuff you want us to talk about. We're super open to talk about all. We just want to talk ball without all the bull, right? So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. So, yeah, looking ahead to week 2. Yeah, man. I mean, what do I want to see? Just more of the same things. Yeah, want to see CJ play a little bit. Want to see one good drive. But yeah, man. Shit. That's pretty much it. I think. I mean, hell, even if he doesn't play, just want to see more of the same stuff. More groundwork being laid for the season. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, man, obviously a lot of the concepts that they do, a lot of stuff starts in preseason, but they're not going to show everything. So, it doesn't really matter too much. But I just want to see the young players play well, doing simple things and executing, And that's pretty much all I want to see. I would like to see Jaden Higgins get a little bit more involved. I can't remember how many catches he finished with. He definitely had 2. But yeah, I want to see him. I want to see him get more involved, and that's pretty much it. Also, we didn't talk about Mechie at all. I thought Mechie had a few really really good plays. I don't think that it's a like the wide receiver 5, 6, and potentially 7. I think we kept 7 receivers last year, so we'll see what happens. But it's gonna be kind of tough to cut any one of those guys at the end of the roster. So yeah, man, that's pretty much it for y'all, man. Thank y'all for coming, man. Like we said, make sure y'all like, share, and sub, man. And we will for sure be live, man, very soon. We'll probably have some videos for y'all coming very soon as well. But yeah, man. I mean, that's pretty much it for the day, man. Thank y'all for coming in. Also, man, shout out to Texan, who is a member, who's been a member for 2 months now. You know what I'm saying? As you can see, we also have these little, I forget what you call them, but the images right next to the members. If you join our channel, you will get I think for the first month or something, it's like a picture of like a slab, and then once you are 2 months, you get a picture of JJ Watt next to you. So yeah, and we got it's a bunch of them. It's a bunch of them. I think we have a few emojis also, man. So yeah, bro. We got y'all coming. We got more content coming for y'all, man. And thank y'all for watching us today, bro.